Shalom, shalom. Shalom, everybody. We're now going to continue, Baruch Hashem, in the Maamar that we've been learning for the past 2 weeks at least, of the previous Rabbi, how Torah and mitzvahs, how having a real, authentic relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is close to each and every Jew to have in his life. And there's no greater simcha, there's no greater goal than to have a relationship, an authentic relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because everything in the world, all creation wants life. All creation seeks life, to live. It's only that when we're healthy and we don't feel any specific need or lack, that we just take it for granted that we're alive. When a person is unhealthy, all of a sudden they feel their strength weak. They want to be strong. And if a person gets sick and they feel their life force ebbing away, there's nothing in the world they want more than to live. It's only because it's continuous. We aren't constantly aware of it. And HaKadosh Baruch is the life of all life, like we say in Tefillah, right? Uchai Chayim Uchei Olamim is the life of the world. So all the worlds, everything has its life force from a higher source, and that higher source all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's mishtalshel down until it comes into the form, the finite form that this world is an expression of. So I heard an interesting Elul story this past Shabbos, that someone, Chabad Rav, was invited to speak at a certain event, and before he got up, there was a non-Chabad Rav that spoke before him, and the non-Chabad Rav spoke about Elul. And he said, in order to try to help the congregation understand the idea of Elul, he said, imagine, because I guess there were a lot of businessmen in the audience, in the congregation. He said, imagine if all of a sudden you get a letter that your business is about to be audited by the IRS. And not just by simple pikidim, simple clerks of the IRS, but by the chief, one in charge of the IRS. He's picking out your books to look at, and he's going to look at it with a magnifying glass. Imagine how you would feel. He said, that's what's happening. We're getting close to Rosh Hashanah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to look at everyone's deeds and everyone's speech and even everyone's thoughts. It's like an audit. We have to do tshuva. We have to correct what we can. That was the basis of his drasha. And then the Chabad Rav. And before I tell you what the Chabad Rav said, I was once audited by the Israeli IRS. I think it was because someone was malshin on me, because someone got upset about something, which the person had some issues, but it was a person that actually had that type of nature and also that type of power. I don't know. I don't know that that's the truth or not. But either way, I got this letter. I got called in to the IRS. The Masach Nasa and my accountant came with me. And I don't know, the meeting was called for 10 o'clock, let's say. And I was sitting there, and it was like 9:45. I got there early to make sure I wasn't late, waiting for my accountant, waiting for the appointment. And I was nervous. And it was an Elul. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, 1 second, what am I nervous about? First of all, the business I'm in, there's nothing really that you can There's a spoiler stick. I'm an insurance agent. My income comes from insurance companies. It's all, nothing's under the table. So, you know, what are they going to find? A parking receipt, a taxi receipt. What are they going to find? What's going to happen? What am I worried about? And I said, I looked at it like, this is what I'm worried about. I'm worried about bus of a dog, people. There's a certain, it was a certain internal process. So when I heard this Rav speak on Shabbos, I remembered that story. And it is a nerve-wracking experience, especially if someone has stuff that they don't want discovered, right? So then the Chabad Rav got up to speak, and he was imbued with a different approach to Elul. Chabad approach to Elul is a different approach. The Alter Rebbe gave us the famous parable of the king in the field. Well, familiar with that parable of the king in the field? Familiar? No? No? Yes? No? All right, so there are some that are not familiar. I'll just say briefly, the Alter Rebbe explained that the king is usually in the palace. And when the king's in the palace, in the throne room, right, the inner chamber, so there are guards. And then there's outer chambers, and there are guards. And then there's other chambers, there are guards. And it's very hard to access the king. You can't just go make an appointment, I want to see the king, and knock on the door. The king is, ruler of the country. It's hard to imagine today what a king is, because we don't have really kings. Maybe you do, but they're figureheads. They don't have real power. When the Tsar was abdicated his throne, or when he was murdered, probably when he was abdicated his throne, in the early 20th century, right? Before the communists took over, there was still actually a Tsar of Russia that ruled with an iron fist. In other words, if his rule spread throughout the land, and anyway, life and death was in his hands. If anyone went against the Tsar, they would be killed. And
Ivan the Terrible.
Ivan the Terrible? Huh?
He
He was a Tsar?
I think so.
Could be, yeah.
Stalin.
It was a real, huh?
Stalin.
Yeah. Okay, but Stalin was a tyrant.
He killed more people than Hitler.
True. Yeah, he was an evil murderer, mass murderer, tyrant, but he wasn't actually a king. Or maybe, he had the power like a king, but they didn't call him king. Right. They didn't call him the king. They called him whatever they called him. The Tsar was actually a king. They called him the king. The king of Russia. The story is told that when the Tsar was abdicated or he was killed, one of the Hasidim said, it's going to be difficult now to explain the concept of Malchus, the concept of kingship, because without actual kings with that type of power and rulership, you just have to imagine it and instead of actually experiencing it. So the Alter Rebbe says that all year round the king is in the palace and the access is difficult. You have to be very meritorious to be able to access the king. But in Elul, the king comes out to the field where the people are. And they're not in their Yom Tov clothing. They're not in their Shabbos dress. They're working in the field. They are as they are. The king comes out to the field, and he's accessible to everyone. All we have to do is greet him. And the Alter Rebbe continues the mashal that everyone that comes to the king greets them with a sever panim yafos, with a smiling countenance, upanim soifakos, and a luminous countenance. That's how the king greets every Jew who comes close to him, who wants to come close to him on Elul. But we have to make that move. We have to want to come close. Elul, one of the words to describe Elul is a pasuk from Shir HaShirim, from the Song of Songs. Ani lidodi v'dodi li. I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. And the Rosh Tevos, the first letters of each of those four words spell out Ani L'Dodi, Aleph Lamed, V'Doidi Li, Vav Lamed. Elul. That's the idea of Elul. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. First, there's I am to my beloved. First, there has to be a isorus, a waking up from the side of the Jew. Ani L'Dodi. I have to make the first move. V'Doidi Li. I have to go greet the king, and then the king responds to me with love and a joyous countenance. So the Alter Rebbe says that the fact, one of the questions that's asked is, well, if the king goes out in the field, isn't that in itself, the king is actually making the first move? Because he's going out to the field. So the explanation is, yes, but it's not in a revealed manner. It's not like everyone says, oh, there's the king. It's a concept. The king is close. Right now, the king is close. And we can come close to the king by increasing in our Torah study. Because where is the king? The king is everywhere. Kodesh Baruch Hu is everywhere. There's no place where Kodesh Baruch Hu is not. I once asked one of the Admorim, of the Polish Admorim, I don't remember who it was. It was a little boy, and one of his father was also a Rebbe, and there were some guests over there. And one of the guests said to the little boy, I'll give you a ruble if you tell me where Hashem is. So the little boy said, I'll give you 2 rubles if you tell me where he's not. Hashem is everywhere. But he's not revealed in a revealed manner everywhere. He's everywhere. But that doesn't mean he's revealed. He's revealed in Torah. He's revealed in mitzvahs. He's revealed in more in the shul than he is in the street. But we have to take our avoidance to take the revelation, bring it to the street, light up the entire world with Hashem's revelation.
Revealed also in Israel versus the outsiders.
Certainly, right. The Gemara talks about 10 levels of kedusha. The highest being the Kodesh Kodashim, the inner sanctuary of the Beis HaMikdash. So, even though the king comes to the field, that's considered the king is making the first move. It's called more of a natin. The Alter Rebbe says it's a natinas koyan. It gives each and every one of us the ability to want to come close, but it's not actually a revelation that actually affects our free choice in a way where when we make that choice, it's not us making the choice. Yeah? And the Alter Rebbe says that in Elul, the 13 attributes of mercy are revealed. 13, but they're not revealed in the same way as they're revealed on Yontif. You know, on Yontif, we say there's a special tefillah when we open the Torah, right? We say Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachel V'chanu. Yeah? The 13 attributes of mercy. We say it 3 times unless it's Shabbos, and we say it once. Why do we say it on Yontif? Because then there's a revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy. And the tzaddikim obviously are aware of that revelation. We believe that there's a revelation like that. But in Elul, and that's why it's Shabbos and Yontif, you can't do malacha. You're not allowed to do work. There are special guidelines for Shabbos and Yontif. Because there's a revelation of the king, the revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy. But in Elul, it's a weekday, right? There's no way you go. Even though the 13 attributes of mercy are revealed, but the way they're revealed is not the same way that, as they are during it's all the way. Good position. So this Chabad Ra, now it's his turn. So he started this mantra of the Elul. It's not just being audited by the Masal of the IRS, and you also learn from the Rebbe, because the Rebbe said in Elul we have to do tshuva with simcha, with joy, not through fear. Once a non-Chabad guy told me a story about Elul, and he said one time there were a group They were trying to cross the border. And it was very dangerous to cross the border, to escape maybe from Russia. And as they got closer, people started getting frightened. The smart people started getting frightened as the journey first started out. And as they got closer, more and more people, until they got close to the border and they saw the guards, everyone got frightened. You know who didn't get frightened? The horses. They didn't get frightened. That was his explanation of Elul, right? We're getting closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. We should get more and more frightened. And if you're not getting frightened, you're a horse. You don't have knowledge. You don't know what's going on. So this was the same idea of getting audited by the income tax authorities. So now the Chabad Rav gets up. What's he going to say? He has to be polite, right? So he gets up and he said, yes, it's true. It's true. He said, we're getting audited on Rosh Hashanah, but we have to keep in mind that the one who's giving us the audit is not just the king, he's also our father. Our father, the king, right? Avinu Malkeinu. So when we recognize that it's the king who's looking towards us is our father, so there's also love and there's also joy because a person loves their father.
Does he also audit the non-Jewish people?
Sure.
They need the biggest audit, especially the.
You know, I'll tell you, this is not anything that I saw written inside, right? And when I was much younger, I thought I was trying to figure out Hashem's plan. I realized I can't figure out it. No, who can figure out Hashem's plan? And I heard from when I was a teenager, I heard from the Rebbe of Hebron. She recently passed away. Her husband, who passed away many years before, was the Rav, and she was the Rebbe. And they refounded the Jewish community in Hebron after the 6-Day War. Forgot her name. Maybe someone remembers.
Rav Hillel's wife.
Who?
Rav Hillel.
I don't know his first name. Well, I remember the last name, but if you would tell it to me. Anyway, she spoke, and she said that it's like a book. It's like a very, very interesting book with a lot of twists and turns. We don't know how many chapters we're going to have to go through, but we know that the end is good.
Hillel Horowitz.
No, not Horowitz. We know the end is good. Mashiach is coming. There's going to be a revelation of the Kodesh Baruch Hu in the world. Everyone's going to realize that Eretz Yisrael belongs to Am Yisrael, right? We see there's a big discussion now in the world. Who does Eretz Yisrael belong to? It belongs to Am Yisrael because the Torah gave it to Am Yisrael. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to Am Yisrael. The first Rashi. We all know the first Rashi in the Torah, right? First Rashi. In Breshis. The first Rashi in the Torah. Rashi says, why did the Torah have to start with Breshis? The Torah is a book of mitzvahs, a book of laws. It should have started with the first mitzvah. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. This month will be the first month to you. That's a long way off. That's in Shmais. Why did it start with Breshis? Rashi says prophetically, right? Well, people that were learning this Rashi 100 years ago, they couldn't see the prophecy, but now we can see. When you start off the first thing, right? That's a significant thing. If it's the first thing, it's significant. Rashi says, Maamar of Yitzchak. Why did the Torah start off with Breshis, Lahagid, and Koichoi La'amor? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to teach his power and strength to his people. That im yavai umo Yisraelim, if the Gentiles of the world come and say, you're thieves, you stole the land of Israel. You familiar with this Rashi? Yeah, you're familiar with the Rashi? Everyone familiar with it? Yes? Continue? Huh? Wow, so you get to the first one. When you get to the first pasuk, you gotta
speak deep.
Gracious. Gracious bara Elokim Eisa Shamayim v'Eisa Aretz. Gracious Rashi. Maamar of Yitzchak. Rav Yitzchak said, Lo hayatzarek lahaskil l'satayra eila me'achodesh hazer lachem. She mitzvah rishayna shenitztavu bo Yisrael. The Torah didn't need to begin. The Torah didn't begin from Bereshis. It needed to begin. Rav Yitzchak asked. The Torah should have began from the first mitzvah, which says this is the first month to you. The idea of how to determine the new moon. Uma tam pasuk b'Bereshis, and what is the reason then that the Torah began with Bereshis? Mishum koyach masav higid liyama latet lahem nachalas goyim. That's a pasuk from Tehillim, which means the power of his might, of his deeds, he told to his people to give to them the inheritance of the Gentiles. She'im yomru umos ha'olam. If the Gentiles say to Yisrael, listim atem, you are thieves. Shekavashtem artso shivas goyim, that you conquered the land that belonged to the 7 Canaanite nations. You're thieves. The Jews will be able to say back to those people who accuse the Jews of being thieves, Kol ha'aretz shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The whole world belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hu bara, he created it. And he gave it to whoever was proper fitting in his eyes to give it to. Through his will, he gave it to those 7 nations. And through his will, not lamehem, he took it from them, v'natnu lanu, and he gave it to us. That is our authority of being. This is our authority of being in Eretz Yisrael. All the promises that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Jewish people, that we would inherit Eretz Yisrael. That Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Jews. It's a shame the Israeli government never uses this. It's really, really a shame. And the Rebbe, there's so many letters to the Rebbe, to the Israeli government people, base it on Torah. And he says, the Rebbe says in one of his letters, he says, there's going to come a time when, because he was talking to people who grew up with a yeshiva upbringing. The founders of the state of Israel, most of them were Jews who had a yeshiva upbringing and went off the path. But they knew what Torah was. They knew what it was. They knew what mitzvahs were. They knew what Judaism was. They didn't want an orthodox or an observant lifestyle, right? They wanted a different type of a state, but whatever. But they knew what it was. The Rebbe said, there's going to come a generation that's not going to know what it was. And how are they going to be able to defend themselves for being here when the world comes and says you're thieves? Teach them the first Rashi in the Torah. They'll know. This is our ammunition. So, again, I started to say that.
There was a prime minister who did refer to that all the time.
Who was that? Begin? Bennett?
Well, Bennett, yeah.
Yeah. That the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us? I never heard him say that, but I believe you if he did.
For 7 months.
Huh?
Yeah, he wasn't in office that long.
What'd you say?
He was only in office like 7 months.
But he actually said that?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
Good. And what was the reaction?
He was only in office 7 months.
No, but that's not why he was only in office 7 months. When a Jew holds his head high, and when a Jew acts with courage and pride in his Judaism, the Gentiles respect such a Jew. You don't get respect from others if you don't have respect for yourself. If you have self-respect, others will also respect you. Right? If you don't have respect for yourself, why should others respect you? You don't even respect yourself. So again, I'm starting to say, I don't know Hashem's plans, and I'm not saying this on any authority other than it just entered my mind that Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Jews. And today we see that in the world, the whole world is up in an uproar about the Jews being in Eretz Yisrael. It's mainly the Arabs, right? And they're influencing a lot of anti-Semites that are very happy to join their bandwagon, and a lot of leftists who, for whatever their reasons, are also joining the bandwagon.
You know what I say about it? Let them say whatever they want. The truth will come out.
Of course the truth will come out.
We're going to stay here forever.
Of course, that's correct. Correct. But it's a difficult challenge. It's a nisayon. These are challenging times. We're in a war. We're surrounded by enemies. Our young soldiers are risking their lives every day. Many have been killed. There's a lot of blood has been shed. There's terrorist attacks, hostages. It's very, very sad. We have to daven very hard. We have to cry out to Hashem to reveal Himself, that He's our God and we're His people, like we say on Yom Kippur, right? Ki anu amechovi ato Elokeinu anu banechavi atavinu. Right? We sing it. We believe it. So show your face. Reveal yourself. So I'm thinking, well, it has to come. Kodesh Baruch Hu, history is, they say, his story, right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't, he gives man free choice. Now, ultimately, it's all going to come about. It's all according to his plan, okay? But he wants it to come through history that everyone's going to see that Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Jews. And right now, I think, okay, we know the Mashiach's about to come. We're definitely at the end of the days, and Mashiach and the revelation is about to come. We have to hold on, and we have to keep our faith and remain strong and keep asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reveal His kindness and goodness to the Jewish people and to all the good people in the world that are on the side of the Jewish people. But you know what? Right now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at the world. You know, I see what side you're on. I would see what side you're on. And those who are on the side against Am Yisrael, they're not going to have a happy ending. They're not going to have. I said against Am Yisrael, right? Is that what I said? They're not going to have a happy ending. We know there's going to be a lot of Gentiles around when Mashiach comes, right? Maybe many of them will do tshuva. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there's a birur process. Yes, sir.
What do you say to people who say that they do know exactly what's going to happen?
How do they know? What's their proof?
Other people say that, but
And the prophets?
What's their proof?
they think they are. They're not.
Okay.
What is the halacha about Pidyon Shmuelim?
It's a tremendous mitzvah to reveal captives, to redeem captives.
But do you do that at the price of releasing terrorists?
You know, Rav Meir of Rothenburg, you heard of him? Rav Meir of Rothenburg? So he was captured by the king at the time, and he was held for ransom. And the Jews, for a very high amount. And the Jews started to collect the money, and he gave an order, don't ransom me. Do not pay this fee, because if you pay this fee, this will become a precedent, and they'll just start kidnapping Jews just to get tons of money. And the Jews listened to him, even though how hard it was, because they wanted to reveal their beloved rabbi, Pidyon Shmuelim, and he died in captivity, passed away in captivity. He was never redeemed. You know, Hamoach, this is the Maamar, it goes over and over again. Hamoach sholet al halev. The mind has to rule the heart. The heart cries out. The heart wants to get back the hostages at any cost, right? What would a person not give to get back his son, his daughter, everything? We can't mitalem from that. We have to be, our hearts have to be open to that and understanding of that, and not judgmental of the families of those who are captured, are in captivity. On the other hand, the Seichel understands that to to make a ceasefire, to release thousands and thousands of murderers is just going to lead to much more Jewish bloodshed. Just like when the Gilad Shalit deal, we got Gilad Shalit back, Baruch Hashem, but the 1,000 terrorists that we gave murdered, I don't know how many Jews, much more than one person, right? And one of the people that was released was this Sinwar Yimach Shemo, right? He was one of the people released in the Shalit deal. So it's a very difficult situation. Anyway, so Elul, Maamar talks about tshuva, and like we said last week, the Maamar first begins with recognizing the greatness of the Jew. Every Jew has to recognize how he's a chelek elokam imam mamash, part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and it goes into great detail to explain the kedusha of each and every Jew. And then, when the Jew realizes how his sins have not only for himself caused a blockage, but for the Shekhinah, like the Alter Rebbe says, when a Jew does an Aveira, it's like he takes the head of the king and sticks it in a bucket of vomit and filth. And even if it's only for a moment, Ein lecha bizayon gadol mizeh. That's the lashon of the Alter Rebbe. There's no bizayon, shame greater than that. Take the king, your father the king, stick his head in a bucket of filth. That's what an Aveira is, right? That's what an Aveira is. It's only that the Chachamim say that Ein Adam chayta ela shenichnas bo ruach shtus, because a spirit of folly entered into him, right? That spirit of folly tricks the Jewish person into thinking that by doing this Aveira, he remains connected with a Kodesh Baruch Hu, it doesn't affect his relationship, but it's not true. The Yetzer Hara wasn't given the power to confuse a Jew when it comes to actual worship of idols. Because if a Jew is threatened, and the threat is either you bow down to this idol or you'll be killed, we see throughout history that the Jews, the vast majority of Jews, they died al Kiddush Hashem. They weren't willing to do it. The whole story of Chana and her 7 sons, right? They wouldn't bow down. They wouldn't bow down. Even the king said to the youngest son, he threw his ring down. He said, "Pick up my ring. Pick up my ring." Right? It'll look like you're picking up my ring. The little child wouldn't do it. You know, he's a little child. Jews don't bow down to idols. Every Jew knows that. I once got a phone call. I probably told this in a previous class. I once got a phone call from a lady. She was a yoga teacher. She wanted to get insurance in case, she overdoes it, then someone gets hurt, injured. So there is insurance for such a thing. You need to bring a Tudam Mikzoit. You need to bring how do you say that?
Business.
You need to bring some type of diploma, some type of thing that you passed a course, that you got a certificate, that you're trained. I said, "Do you have one?" She said, "Yeah, from India." So I said, tell me, what was it like there when in the ashram, in the place of Avodah Zarah? Were we able to see who the Jews were or not? Because I had heard from a shaliach that came from not India, from another place right nearby, the Himalayas, Tibet. Yeah, from Tibet, from the name of the city, that big city in Tibet.
Kuala Lumpur?
No, a different one. Kathmandu. Yeah. He was from Kathmandu. There was some type of there was a tsunami over there, an earthquake. They gave out food to tens of thousands of people. They came to collect stuff. Because he said all the Israelis say that when it comes to bowing down, then you know who the Jews are. No, the Jews don't bow down. And she said the same thing. She confirmed it. She said, "Yep, that's how you do it." That's how she met her husband. She met her husband there. The Jews don't bow down. Why? Because then a Jew realizes, wow, I'm severing my connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even though afterwards it's possible to do tshuva for Avodah Zarah also. Right? If someone worshipped idols, they have to do tshuva, and they can do tshuva. But you can't rely on the tshuva. You're not allowed to do it, and the Jews don't do it because they recognize the Yetzer Hara wasn't given the power to fool the Jew when it comes to an actual act of idol worship, right? But every affair is an act of idol worship in a certain sense, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's one, yeah? He's not just one in the sense that he's the only power. That's also true. That's the kavanah that we have to have in Elokeinu, when we say Hashem Elokeinu, right? Shehu Baal HaKoiches, U'Baal HaYecholos, U'Baal HaKoiches Kula. That he's the Baal HaYecholos, he has the power to do everything. U'Baal HaKoiches Kula, and he is the power of all powers. There's no independent power of him. The fact that the sun shines is not something independent. He gives the sun power to shine at every moment. Right? So if a person's worshiping the sun, they're making an error because that's not Hashem's will. It's just an axe in the hand of the woodchopper, right? To heat up the world, to make photosynthesis, to give life. There needs to be a sun, the way he created, there needs to be a sun. But the sun doesn't have any independent power. It's just the creation of a Kodesh Baruch. It's doing what it was created to do. Like an axe in the hand of the woodchopper. If someone builds a beautiful house out of wood, right? So who do you say, wow, who do you say to you praise the axe? What a great axe. It might be a great axe, but you don't praise the axe. You pray, if you're going to give anyone a compliment, you're going to compliment the guy who built it, right? The woodchopper. The axe was only his tool that he used to build the house. That's how the whole world is. So not only is that true, that Hashem is the power of everything. There's nothing has independent power. That's not. He's one. There's no other power independent of him. That's nigla. That's the revealed aspect of Torah. That's all true, right? There's a deeper level that there's nothing else other than a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ein od milvado. He's one and there is nothing else. We are all an expression of his will. And we exist, right? But we don't exist independent of him. We don't sense our dependence at every moment. That's the illusion. That's the challenge. That's the challenge of this world. That's where free choice can exist, because we sense ourselves independent beings, and there's plenty of people who take the position of Paro, right? When Moshe said to Paro, Hashem says, "Let my people go," right? What did Paro say?
Who is Hashem?
Who is Hashem that I should listen to me? Who is it? There's plenty of people that take that position, but it's the wrong position. They're living a life of falsehood. So, in a certain sense, whenever a Jew does any event, he's forgetting that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here. Right here. He's telling you not to do this, and you're doing it. He's looking at you. He's walking. You're in his presence, and you're doing it. You're denying his truth. You're denying the fact that of his Ein od milvado, of his omnipresence and omniscience. So there's a certain aspect of Avodah Zarah in every Aveira. However, the Yetzer Hara was given the power to confuse a Jew and fool him. It's called a Ruach Shtus, to think that right now, even though I'm doing something that's against Hashem's will, and I know it's against Hashem's will, I'm doing it anyway, chas v'shalom, I'm not severing my connection. But that's a falsehood, and a Jew has to do tshuva for those things. But we have to add that when we say severing the connection, it's not a complete severing of the connection, because every Jew is a chelik, his neshama is a chelik elokam, imam mamash. It's actually a part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu above. So, since it's a part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu above, it's constantly with a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's just like taking the head of the king and sticking it in a bucket of vomit and filth. That's what you're doing, right? So you have to do tshuva for that, right? You got to clean up it's not a simple thing, right? To clean up the king's face. right? We got to clean up our act. We got to not do things that are like that. Okay, but if a person would realize it, they wouldn't do it. So the Yetzer Hara fools a person to think that that's not what's really happening at the moment when the Jew is doing the Avera.
What about in between? In other words, you know you're doing it, and you're not just lightly saying, I know I'm not severing this guy. So what if you're talking to Hashem during the whole thing, like, sorry about this?
Well, I guess then, then the person's emunah is not so integrated into their life, right? If a person is caught in the midst of a desire, right, and they realize, wow, if I don't put the brakes right now on myself, right, I'm going to fall, and then they don't put the brakes on and they fall. They got to do tshuva. If they're authentic and they realize, wow, I don't want to push away the Shechina. The words of the Zohar are, Doichef raglei hashchina. An Avera pushes away, it pushes the Gula. We want Mashiach to come, the sooner the better, right? So every Avera pushes away Mashiach. We don't want to do that. We want to, it's like the Gemara talks about the thief who davens before he breaks in. There's a Gemara in Brachos. You won't find it though in the standard editions. It's in certain editions that are not the regular editions you find on the bookshelves. It took me a long time to find it. I forgot the name of which edition it is. I wanted to actually find the source, but I did. And it says over there that he prays to Hashem. And the Gemara has a discussion. Does he believe or not? On the one hand, he's praying to Hashem, so he obviously believes, because he wouldn't pray if he didn't believe. He's praying for success in his thievery. On the other hand, he knows that Hashem says you're not allowed to steal. So what kind of belief is that? So the Gemara says it's a kind of a belief that's not integrated into his personality. Like the person that makes kiddush and then, goes and drives to the soccer game, right? He believes that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. He's saying it. He believes the words. But it hasn't gotten integrated into his personality.
You don't know what's
What?
There is a satirical video with the politician saying, I'm going to do something terrible tonight.
What is that?
The politician says, I'm going to do something terrible tonight, and I don't know how it's going to end. So I want to read my pre-written apology now.
Yeah, right, exactly. So in the yeshivas, when the Bachrim learn that Gemara, the Rosh yeshivas, that the teachers tell the Bachrim, don't think that the Gemara is talking about someone else. The Gemara is talking about each and every one of us. Because each and every one of us is a hypocrite in that way, right? Each and every one of us has those tendencies to be like that thief. We just have to recognize it, right? We have to be conscious of what's going on with us. There's a sikh of the Rebbe that the Rebbe points out that the offering that one has to bring for an asham is a more expensive offering than someone that has to bring for a chatas, for a regular sin offering. An asham is a type of offering where the person knows he did an avera, right? But he's not sure what kind of avera he did. Right? He knows he ate forbidden. He knows he ate fat, but he doesn't know if the fat was forbidden or not. Some fats are. He's not sure if he did the avera. It could be he ate a fat that was forbidden, and he has to. The punishment is kores, right? Being cut off. So he has to bring an asham. He has to bring a.
Would you like some more?
Yes, please, thank you. Appreciate it. He has to bring the special korban because he's misupak, because he's in doubt whether he's did the avera or not. So the Rebbe asks and says, why does he have to bring a more expensive korban if he's in doubt? It would make more sense that he has to bring a more expensive korban It would appear to make, thank you very much. I already made a bracha before, so. So it would appear that if he knows he did an avera, he should bring a more expensive korban. If he's doubtful, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Why does he have to bring a more expensive korban? So the Rebbe answers, what I don't remember the whole sikha, but I remember what the Rebbe says. What's the limud haskell? What do we have to learn from this in our lives? That a person who doesn't know what's going on with himself is in a worse situation than a person who knows what's going on with himself. If a person knows what's going on with himself and he knows that there's bad going on, he can get rid of the bad. But if a person doesn't know what's going on with himself and his whole life is just doubtful, he doesn't know what the difference between right and wrong. He doesn't know whether he's doing right and wrong, right? He doesn't care. He's showing that he doesn't really care. Everyone's got like they say to kids, that are in yeshiva, and then they have to, do better for whatever the reasons. Titfos et atzmecha. Nitzrich litfos et atzmi. Every person has to be a balabas on himself. He has to tofes himself. He has to grab himself. Take control. Know what he's thinking, right? And if it's good thoughts, increase them. If it's bad thoughts, get rid of them. Get rid of them. They don't belong in you, right? You're a holy person. So, and you can, and no Jew, like the previous Rebbe says in the Maamar, no Jew can or wants to be separated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No Jew can. It doesn't matter what he does, how he lives. In the end, everyone's going to do tshuva. Lo yidach mimenu nidach. No Jew is going to be fully pushed away. But, like it says in Shmuel, right? When the Jews were suffering in Mitzrayim, there was slavery and harsh suffering. And the Jews cried out and cried out and cried out. And ultimately, the Jews cried out to Hashem. Vayal shavatam elokim. Elokim shamat shavatam. Vayal et shavatam lelokim. Elokim shamat tzakatam. Vayishma elokim et tzakatam. Well, no. So over there, the Kli Yakar says that why in the previous times didn't Hashem answer their crying out? They cried out plenty. Why only now? Because now they cried out to Hashem. Before they were just crying out either because of the difficulty of the work, or they were crying out to the ministers of Paro to try to have some effect in the court to make it easier on them. Hashem wants us to cry out to Him. I'm sure we've all seen videos of the Rebbe, right? Where the Rebbe sings Vivant Mashiach now, right? We want Mashiach now, right? It's kind of Chabad. So we want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now.
French for a second.
Huh?
Vivant.
That's how the Rebbe.
It sounds French.
Okay, the Rebbe spoke like with a European accent. He spoke English.
He was very talented.
Yes. Why do we need to cry out? Because we have to cry out. Question is, are we going to be smart enough to cry out before Hashem makes us cry out? Or are we going to have to wait for a situation where we've been dozing or sleeping or lazy, and Hashem has to turn things around in such a way that we say, whoa, look what's going on. Hashem, save us.
Maybe he's already doing it.
I know.
And when I see people driving in Shabbat, I don't understand.
They're going to the hospital.
Well, some of them, yes, but some of them are just like going to the beach or something. If they're going to the hospital, I wish before Shlema.
You have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Assume everybody's going to the hospital.
Well, if that's true.
Hashem.
If that's what they should know, everyone will go to the hospital.
Well,
The Gemara in Megillah says that when Achashverosh took his signet ring, and he gave it to Haman. Yeah? That had more of an effect on the Jewish people than all the exhortations of all the prophets in all the generations. A prophet is a wonderful tzaddik, a holy individual that Hashem gave to Bnei Yisrael to be a mouthpiece for his ratzon, for his will. And the prophet exhorts the Jewish people to do tshuva and to come close. But the anti-Semitism wakes Jews up a lot more than the prophet. So that is not a complimentary statement, okay? But we're in a situation where we wanted to get better, okay? Hashem gave us the wake-up call. There's a big wake-up call. Now it's Elul. We hear the shofar being blown every day. The Rambam says the reason that we blow the shofar is it's like a wake-up call, yeah? That like if there's a fire, so you sound the trumpet, you sound the alarm that everyone should come and grab their bucket of water to put it out, and we need to go and we need to get moving now, okay? If up till now people were in a daze or a haze or a daydream or asleep or not doing as much as they could, now they have to, every person has to realize now we have to do more. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is testing us. He wants Bnei Yisrael to cry out to him. So let's cry out to him and let's go to the king who's in the field and let's say, Abba, we love you, we need you, be with us. We're going, Anila Daidi, we're going to be with you. I'm going to do an extra mitzvah. I'm going to give extra tzedakah. I'm going to learn a little more Torah than I'm used to learning. That's coming close to the king. That's coming close to the king. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. He wants Bnei Yisrael to come close to him. He will reveal us. He will redeem us. He will reveal himself and he will redeem us. But he wants us to make the effort. Elul is now the time when we need to make the effort. Yeah, so. All right, so let's see some of the words. Any questions? Any comments? So the Chabad Rabbi said, we're getting audited, but remember the auditor is our father. It's our father. So it shouldn't be out of fear. It should be out of love, because a person wants to do for their father. A person wants to do for their parents. Sometimes a person is willing to do more for them, for their parents than themselves, even to give up his life for his parents, right?
Because like give up your life for the parents. Like
Sometimes children, they're willing to do anything for their parents.
I can understand like giving up your life for your homeland, but how do you give up your life for? I don't know.
An armed person enters the house, the parents are asleep, you take the whole.
Okay.
Okay.
So the previous Rabbi explained, and we learned this in depth, that our avodah, we have to concentrate our minds on Torah concepts, and then we will feel the concepts in our heart. It's not automatic. It requires das. It requires connecting the mind with the heart. The heart feels. The mind thinks, right? There could be a gap, right? Someone once said, we wear a gartel, yeah? Chabad, Hasidim wear a gartel here, yeah? To separate from the higher desires of the heart from the lower desires, right? Especially during tefillah, the heart should be totally for Hashem, right? And someone said that's why we don't wear a tie, because we don't want to make a separation between the head and the heart. But the Rebbe wore a black silk tie, so it can't really be true. It can just be an interesting little saying.
It was a good one.
I like that. So we have to, by the tzaddikim, there's the channels of flow are all open, and the heart automatically feels the godliness and the concept being learned. by the Beinonim or the aspiring Beinonim. Us, we're aspiring to be Beinonim, to be those type of people that are in control of our thought, speech, and deed, and direct our thought, speech, and deed at all times towards Hashem's will. That's a Beinon, right? That's someone who is really walks the walk, okay? You can learn about it and talk the talk, what a Beinoni is, but actually walk the walk. To be a Beinoni, we're all aspiring to be a Beinoni. Hopefully, we're going to do a lot of avodah to do that, to get there. But it requires effort. It requires effort. It requires concentration. It requires contemplation, right? When a person contemplates a subject, if they're learning about it, like, for example, we're learning about the king in the field, you know? So we said before that it's a revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy, but it's a revelation in a hidden way. So what's a greater power? What's a greater power, if you would think, right? Well, let's just go to Gashmias for a second. What's stronger in a car, the engine or the brakes?
Engine.
The brakes.
The engine.
The brakes stop the engine.
The brakes can stop even if you push the pedal, right, to the metal. If you put a foot on the brakes, you're not going anywhere, right? That the brakes are stronger. They can control the engine.
Well, actually, the engine is off, the brakes don't work. That's the way it works, actually. When the engine is off, the brakes don't work.
So what if a person is rolling down a hill?
Then they keep on rolling.
You say you have that.
Well, no, you don't use the brakes.
What are the neutral?
It's not power brakes.
If you put a car this direction,
Oh, I see, okay.
the brakes function, it's a pump. It's not electric.
So in Kedusha, we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? We learned in the previous Maamar, when we were learning Shar Yuchud V'Amunah in the Tanya, not the Maamar, we learned about the difference between the sun and the rays of the sun. And that was a mashal, right? That was a parable to explain, right, how the rays of the sun don't have an independent existence. And they actually exist in the sun itself. Just in the sun, they're completely nullified to the orb of the sun because of the great power of the great illumination of the orb of the sun. It's only when the orb of the sun isn't visible, isn't there, the rays of the sun come out. They come out of the sun. And similarly, right, everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like the rays of the sun come from the sun, right? And it's only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu hid himself, right, from our eyes of flesh, that we perceive ourselves as independent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creating us at every moment. But the truth is, he's here, and he's creating us at every moment. We just don't see it. So one might think that the revelation of godliness as it is up above is higher than the revelation of godliness as it is down here below. Because down here below, you don't see the revelation. So, yes, on the one hand, that's true because you don't see the revelation. Obviously, but in terms of revelation, right, there's less of a revelation down here. But in terms of the truth of the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a greater power in the fact that he's here in a place where he's not revealed than he's in a place where he is revealed. Like to say it in the words of the Sefer Avodas HaKodesh, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, well, first to say it, in the words of Avodah, Kamosha yesh lo koach bebilti balvu, yesh lo koach begvul. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power to reveal himself in an infinite way, he has the power to express himself in a finite way too. This world is an expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he hid himself in this world. That's like brakes, right? The upper world, and just in a gas hashva comparison, a very forced comparison, right? In the upper worlds where there's a revelation and the angels are nullified out of existence, right? Like the sruffing, They say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. They're called Srafim. Why? Because they burn up. They burn. They're created in this type of spiritual fire, the spiritual love and awe, right? And they recognize Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. Kodesh means separate, right? So they realize how above Hashem is, and then there's Kodesh, and then there's Kodesh above and above, and they get burnt up in their. They recognize their source, and they get burnt up. They get nullified, and then Hashem creates them again. And they say it all day long. They're saying Kodesh, 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 getting nullified and getting recreated. So in the upper worlds, there's a higher revelation, right? But it doesn't mean that Hashem down here isn't here. He's here. He's everywhere. There's no place where he's not. And the fact that here he hides his revelation of himself, that alludes to a greater power within him. That's called the koyach hagvul. There's the koyach hagilui, and there's the koyach hagvul. There's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's power. Power is really not the right word. Ability is also not. We don't have words, but we need to speak to explain things, so we use words. But the words themselves are not the true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just like he has the ability to reveal himself, he has the ability to hide his revelation. And here in this world, he hides his revelation. And the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, we all know this Mishnah, Maamar of Yaakov, right? Rav Yaakov says that tshuva and ma'asim tovim, tshuva and good deeds. What does it say in the Mishnah? That in Gan Eden, says, I don't know the exact, I don't remember the exact wording of the Mishnah, but it says that tshuva and ma'asim tovim are shaveh yoter me'olam haba, are more than all of olam haba, and olam haba, the koras ruach, the pleasure of olam haba is greater than all the pleasure of this world. Rev Eliyahu Diskin, who was kashur to Chabad, but he wasn't Chabad. He was one of the Gedolei Hador of the previous generation. Wrote a story called Michtav Eliyahu. He founded the Gateshead Yeshiva in England. So he explained, what does that Mishnah mean, that the pleasure that the neshamas get in Gan Eden is more than all the pleasure of this world? He would say, if you took every pleasure that every person and animal had since the beginning of creation until now, and you added up all those pleasures and you contained it in one moment, that would be nothing contained to the pleasure that the neshama has in Olam Haba. That's what he explained. Nice mashal. But the Mishnah says that tshuva and ma'asim tovim are more than all of that. Why? Because down here, up there, first of all, let's talk about up there. Up there in Gan Eden, it says that the neshamas are nenim miziv hashchina, right? The neshamas have pleasure from the radiance of the Shechina. Okay? We tend to think of it as a reward, but the truth of the matter is, we create it. We create that pleasure that the neshamas have through our Torah and mitzvahs. Our Torah and mitzvahs, b'iraisa v'kutra brichul kulo chad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one with the Torah and the mitzvahs, right? The Torah is his chokhmah, and the mitzvahs are his ratzon. The Torah is his wisdom, and the mitzvahs is his will. And even though when a person learns down here, right, about, well, let's say he's learning about kashrus, and he's talking about the lungs of an ox, and he's learning about the lungs of an ox, and what type of blemish is not treif, doesn't render the animal invalid for eating, and what type of blemish renders it invalid. And he's talking about gashmias things, right? That's only because of Kodesh Baruch Hu hid himself in Torah. He's right there. That's his will and wisdom. He's there. You're learning him. You're connecting with him. And you're creating a certain reality above that after 120 years, you'll benefit. You'll have pleasure from that reality that you created. You'll have a ziv. The neshamas, before they come down, right? They're in the palace of the king, right? And now that once they come down and learn Torah and do mitzvahs in this world, after they go back up to Gan Eden, the pleasure they have from their feeling and understanding of the king is even greater, because they learned Torah and did mitzvahs down here, which created a certain reality that they didn't have before they came down. But down here we have a Kodesh Baruch Hu's essence. And the essence isn't revealed. The essence will be revealed in time to come, in the world to come, in Tchias HaMesim. Yeah? But right now, we have to believe it. I mean, it's one of the truths that we are taught that we should believe. We have to believe it. We have to think about it. We have to contemplate it, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, took himself, and he has a power to hide himself. It's called Koyach HaGvul, or it's called the Tzimtzum, right? Before the Tzimtzum, before this concealment, there was no concealment, right? And there was no room for worlds. Because worlds, by definition, are concealment to some extent, even the highest of all the worlds. Ak, Adam Kadmon, is the first world that came into existence after the Tzimtzum. Even in Ak, even though in Ak it says that all the 10 spheroids were in a point, they were in an akuda, they were in a state of potential. Nevertheless, that state of potential is already external to the internal aspect of this. Nothing else other than a Kodesh Baruch Hu is one before the Tzimtzum. And that not dichotomy, that reality that there's an external and an internal aspect of a world, that already is two. All from that externality, the world below comes. Then they have the internal part of the world below it, and the external part. This world is the external of the external of the external, but in every world is the internal. In every world is Pnimiusak, the internal aspect of a Kodesh Baruch Hu that's hidden in every world, and it's down here right in the Torah. Where is it revealed? In the laws of the Torah, in the seichel of the Torah, in the performance of the mitzvahs. A Kodesh Baruch Hu created a world. He wants us to reveal him in the world, in this physical world. How? It's a physical world. It's a limited world. How do you have an unlimited revelation in a limited world? It's not something we could do. It's only something he could do. Because by him, limited and unlimited, he's beyond limitation. And just like he has the power to express himself in an unlimited fashion, he has the power to express himself in a limited fashion. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world through his power of speech, Baruch She'amar V'haya Olam, and everything in the world except for two things come from his power of speech, including the angels, including the Srafim that we talked about, that are in Olam HaBriya, and their awe and love and fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so great that they just burn out of existence. That's pretty amazing, right? You can become nullified in their source, right? They come from speech. There's only two things in this world that come from what's called Pnimius HaChochma. Pnimius HaChochma is Pnimius Atik, or Ein Sof. There's only two things that come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Right? Not through his power of speech, which is a tzimtzum. It's a metzumtzam power. It's a limited power, right? There's only two things in this world that are unlimited. You know what they are? Who knows?
No, isn't it? Well,
Huh?
God, Hashem's the koach, power.
Hashem's power. Hashem created. Well, Hashem put into this world. Not even say created. Because there are two things in this world that are not part of creation. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not going to say created, because it's not part of creation. Everything is part of creation. Creation is Baruch She'amar V'haya Olam. Hashem spoke, speech, right? Then the speech comes from thought. Thought's a higher level. speech, right? Thought is connected with the person's inner self. That's where a person's conscious of themselves and their thoughts, right? Especially in the deepest thoughts. They're one with their thoughts. Your speech, you could take it and edit it, right? What are those two things in this world that don't come from creation? They're beyond creation.
Torah
Torah,
and the alphabet.
the alphabet.
Alphabet was existed before creation.
Okay, that's part of Torah, right? The Torah's letters, there's Torah, and the soul of a Jew. Torah, Hashem put the Jews in the world, and he put the Torah in the world, and he said to the Jews, I want you to reveal me. So I'm giving you me, right? I'm giving you me. I'm giving you me in Torah. Like the Gemara says, Anoichi, the word Anoichi, in the first word of the Aseret HaDibros, Ana Nafshi, Kasavis Yahavis. Gemara in Shabbos, I don't remember which daf, says, Anoichi is an acronym. It means I have written my very self into it. I have put myself in the Torah. Right? Like the Zohar says on the pasuk, Vayikuli Truma. You should take an offering for me. The Zohar says, when you learn Torah, you're taking me. I'm there. I'm in it. I've put myself in it. So he gave the Jews, who are not part of creation. Our bodies are part of creation, right? But our souls are not part of creation. The soul of a Jew in the Lashon of Chassidus,
ויפח באפיו בחיים.
כן,
נפש חיים.
נכון? No,
ויפח.
Vayipach,
באפיו.
Vayipach.
Nefesh
So the Alter Rebbe in the very beginning of Tanya says, Yipach, right? The word Yipach is to blow, to huff and puff. It's not like talking. You can talk and talk and talk and never get tired. People get tired of listening. But if you want to talk, you can just talk and talk and talk. You're not going to get out of breath. But if you start to blow up a balloon, for example, you got to take a break, right? Because it's hard. So the Alter Rebbe brings the Zayar, which says, Mishin nafach pnimiyuso. He's breathing from his internalness, right? So I'm not talking about the souls of the animal soul of a Jew or the souls of everything else in creation. I'm talking about the neshama. I'm talking about that part of
נפש מלוקה ממעל.
that part of the Jew that's called Hanefesh Hashenis B'Yisrael Uchelek Elokam Imal Mamash. It's a part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That is not something that was created. It's part of the Creator. Right? There's the Creator, and then the Creator creates. That's part of Him. That's not part of His creation. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm putting myself in you, and I'm putting myself in Torah, and by you, who are part of me, studying my wisdom and my will in this physical world, that's how you're going to reveal the infinite. My infinite aspects are going to be revealed in this world. You have the ability to do it. And only you have the ability to do it. Okay. We went a little over today, but
But going back.
no harm done.
The